All right, so what we got here is GMT's newly released Mr. President, which I have set up pretty much right off the punch boards out of the box. So none of the pieces were organized. This setup took me about an hour and a half. And I'm following the recommendations on the cute little letter and on the back of here, which is basically saying, read this book, this 8-page or whatever it is, how to play book, and then do these things, set up the core sandbox scenario, which is the one that I set up. And I set it up on medium difficulty. There's a way to change the difficulties. That all took me about an hour and a half. As you can see, the footprint is substantial. So of the two maps, if you've watched the unboxing video, you know this. You got one 8-panel map over here, one 4-panel map over here, and then two displays that are just on cardstock. And one of the weird things about presentation is, why didn't they just make this board bigger and put those displays on there? I'm not sure. I guess it's a little more modular this way. I've got some extra space over here, which has the books I've been referring to. This stuff back here is the extra cards that are not in the game. You do perform a deck construction mechanism, and then you have a deck for each year of your term. I only want to play through the first year here, so I only set one of those up. And then over here we have the turn sequence flip book and the 4 player rate cards. So with all that, the footprint's pretty substantial. Once you, the book doesn't say this, but if you're diving into this, and I'm kind of trying, I'm giving them the credit of trying to do it the way they say you should do it. I do think, however, that you should, before you do any of that, punch out and organize the large number of chits. There's five punch boards of 5/8 inch chits. Still working on organization. There's very good chance you'll see a video on that sooner or later. The board itself is kind of displayed in this, this end of it, you've got kind of the world status display, and then over here you've got the domestic status, and over here you have a variety of pools. In some cases, they're just chits that are, you're waiting to use, and in some cases they are randomized pools of chits with different values on the back. And given that we have, as part of the setup, created 7 chit pools, I'm not really sure why we're not just putting all these in a cup as well. Maybe there's a reason. I don't know. I may end up doing that. The biggest pool, of course, are these tension chits, which get spread around fairly liberally. Prior to starting play, you actually draw 2 of these cascading events chits, which are kind of the lingering issues when you take office, and then they go into like a tier 2 box. There's a tier 3 box too, and they get worse depending on which one you draw them from. So we drew stagnation in the Eurozone economies creates higher unemployment and widespread protests, and a cyber attack. We rolled it randomly. It was India, and the Chinese got blamed for that. So other than that, we're pretty much setting up the sandbox scenario here. And I am going to, again, follow the game's recommendation and go through the turn sequence flipbook and look things up as necessary in the large tome that I have over here, which is the governing manual, which is kind of the master rulebook. One thing that I didn't see yet, and I have not exhaustively looked through all the books, is kind of like master guide to what all the different chits look like. I do feel like in a couple of cases that would have been handy. Because it was my first time setting it up, I spent a significant amount of time just kind of looking around to try to find where the appropriate track was, and then looking around to find the appropriate counter to put on that track. And there's a lot of counters and a lot of tracks. So I do think that that hour and a half is at the upper end of what setup in this thing will actually take. So if you want to see more video, please do mention in the comments below. If this has been useful to you, please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more stuff. Thanks.